Okay, I am back with another video because I don't know, I'm on a roll, It's Taurus season, my Mars is in Taurus, and maybe that's why I'm just like motivated to get my shit together. But anyway, I am back making another video because I realized that I kind of realized that when I'm talking about like shadow work and healing work, to me it was something very easy, but I realized that it may not be easy for everybody. So I wanted to make this really quick little video about shadow work and just kind of say like, hey, shadow work is hard. Let's fucking simplify it. Let's make it easy. Yes, I wanted to come on here because, I'm thinking about like the shadow work and like really where it all started for me. It actually started with tarot. It started with tarot for me when I was actually still living in Dominican Republic. And I really want to say like what was the approach that I took and how to make it easy. It doesn't have to be difficult, but I did just want to share my story. I wanted to share my experience. So without further ado, I will just go ahead and hop into like what I believe shadow work is, and then I'll go ahead and I'll follow the steps from there. So for me, we grow up in whatever society that we grow up in. For example, I grew up in California, now I'm living in Florida. There's cultural differences and things like that. However, the shadow work or the shadow of a being, I joke around a lot, at least on Twitter. I like to talk a lot about like how my shadow is very integrated because she is. I put in a lot of work to integrate her into my everyday walking because it became necessary to use my shadow since I always have to protect myself against these demons that be out here. So I wanted to talk about like what to me what the shadow is. The shadow is just that part of you that you suppress, be it because of what is expected of you in your culture, being that you don't want to come off a certain way, being that you care what other people think. There's so many reasons why people suppress their shadow, but the shadow is that nature of you it's dark. It's the dark side of you. I like to go back to like Cain and Abel because freaking Cain totally used his shadow and just murdered his brother. So, it's within us all. Every single human has the ability to kill, has the ability to get violent, every single human has a shadow side. So this is what I noticed about when the shadow gets neglected. When you spend years and years and years suppressing your shadow, please believe that shadow is going to come out in one way or another. Either it's going to be in you getting in relationships with shadowy beings, or it's going to be you perhaps indulging in toxic behavior. Either way, your shadow is a part of you, so no matter what, it's going to find a way to get stimulated. This is just what I know. So as opposed to letting the shadow hop out in a moment where it really is not necessary and really is inconvenient, I did that work to make sure that the shadow is ever present, so that if just in case I have to tap into her, she's ready to go. So that's what the shadow is. The shadow is just that dark side of everybody. Everybody has it. That's why me personally, when somebody is like too good, or they're like holier than thou, I'm more skeptical of them because I know that shadow is really, really dark. That's just me though. If you walk this earth and you think that that's safe and you think that people like that are really, holier than thou or whatever, okay. There's really nothing I can say about that. But for me, the shadow, I just don't play. So I know I have like no lighting. I was supposed to be recording my videos. I'm supposed to have an hour of sunlight left with these clouds rolled in out of nowhere. So I'm looking dark. Oh well. Now what is shadow work? To me, what shadow work is to me is not just suppressing your shadow and acting like she or he is not there, because that's abuse. And if you've seen the movie Us, I don't think it's a good idea. to neglect the shadow. Because the shadow gets mad. Because the shadow needs to shine too, you know? And what shadow work is now that I understand it, is bringing in that dark side of you and integrating it into your like daily life. Like, for example, there's dark elements people might say, like jealousy, envy, anger, sadness, vengeance, things like that. Those are all shadowy elements. Now, I think that those elements are necessary for a person to have to survive. No. To thrive on planet Earth. That's what I think. I think if you are all goody two shoes and you never use your shadow, I think you're probably in the low levels. Anyway, but I do want to talk about how just I integrated her and I use her like on a daily basis. Like, for example, dealing with men. I have to use the shadow constantly because unfortunately men are so goddamn demonic, you know? So where did I start? At least this is my personal story about how I integrated my shadow and the things that I did and the things I had to really, look at. The things I really had to look at about myself and just be like, see, if you would have used your shadow then, maybe you wouldn't be here now. So anyway, where did I start? I was living in Dominican Republic. I was on my last couple of months living out there because this was after I went back to DR after having my baby. So it was over the summer, pretty much, 2019 was when I was arguing with the father of my baby a lot, and I was just so done. I'm like, everything I did, like all this light shit, all this nice shit literally put me in this situation that I'm in now. That's over. So I remember I was on Twitter and there was like this GIF or GIF, I don't know how it's pronounced, but it was like these tarot cards that were like flipping through really fast. And so the trick was to like take 3 screenshots, and those, whatever it landed on, like in the screenshot, that was like your reading, your 3-card pull. And that was really how I got introduced to tarot. But this is not a video about tarot. There was just certain things that came up, and specifically the death card. I should say that the GIF only circulated through major arcana, so it was already kind of biased, but it doesn't matter. The death card was one of the ones that came out. Yes, it was the Hanged Man, Death, and the Wheel of Fortune. Those are the 3 cards that came out. And me and my baby daddy were arguing so much. The arguments were so bad that I was literally like, I'm like, if I don't leave, somebody's going to die. And that's why I thought the death card, again, I knew nothing about tarot, but I thought that's why the death card came out, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, the card said it. Like, if I don't do something, like, somebody's going to die. Like, we don't have time for this. Like, I'm not gonna die. I know that. It's not gonna be me. So let's go ahead and try and figure some stuff out. And so I started watching these videos, and I'll link like the channel below, but it's called Wei Wisdom, and I'm looking at their page right now because I'm just like, these are the videos. Like, it just really takes me back. But I was doing the Wei Wisdom, and when I was doing my Wei Wisdom, basically there's this like theme that this couple that are like psychologists or something, I don't know, but they basically talk about like the inner work. And I was like, ooh, okay. And they would always bring up this thing called a golden thread. And basically the golden thread is just like when you get triggered or when you get alarmed or when something pops up and your shadow gets activated, anger, jealousy, whatever, what have you, you have to take that moment and ask yourself what's going on. You have to ask yourself what's going on. And that's where the shadow work began for me. I was following that golden thread. I would have like an altercation with the father of my child, and then I would be like, okay, what's the issue here? Like, literally, why are you so mad? Like, I'm asking myself, but I'm like, literally, why are you so mad? And so I would have to follow that golden thread back and be like, oh, I'm mad because of this. Okay, well, what's wrong with this? Why is this something that's a problem? Oh, I guess because this. Okay, great. And why is that? And so it was just a golden thread. It's really funny. You guys can watch the videos if you want to like do the inner work. Like, you can see for yourself. You can see for yourself, why you feel the certain ways you do, because you're the only one who's in control of how you feel. And so for me, I would be following that golden thread. And that's when I was just like, okay, yeah, And instead of trying to act like I wasn't jealous or act like I wasn't angry, I was like, no, your feelings are valid. I had to validate my own feelings. I'm not looking for anybody else to validate my feelings. I don't need that. I can validate myself. Thank you very much. And so I was following that golden thread, and I had realized, like, hey, like, these are my triggers or whatever because of blah, 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 whatever. So it really started with kind of just like following that golden thread and really getting some self-awareness about what sets me off and why it sets me off. And then at that point, I entered solitude. So after I left the father of my child, and I personally think that if you're going to be doing shadow work, personally, I think it's best if you like kind of stay on the outskirts. Like I think you need to not be continuously hanging out with other people while you're trying to figure your darkness out. That's just me. I just think as a safety precaution, I think it's best if you don't do that. But the solitude and the isolation. After I left him, I went back to my mom's house. You guys know this if you have just been on my channel for a while and watched my videos. I went back to my mom's house, and so like I was just there with my baby, and I wasn't hanging out with anybody. Like, people didn't even know I was in San Diego. I didn't tell anybody. And when I was in isolation, it was like I was able to get clarity because there's not so much noise. There's not noise floating all around. And when I say solitude, I'm not even talking about just not hanging out with other people. I'm talking about like limiting social media as well, because there's a lot of noise on social media, and social media is very Neptunian and like ruled by the devil. So yeah, no, I had to just, limit the time I was spending on those various platforms. But anyhow, the isolation and the solitude. With that, I was able to really gain clarity and just really read my own thoughts and really just reflect. I was just reflecting on things that happened, not only just with the father of my child, but everything that happened since childhood. Because again, I was following that golden thread. And that golden thread was leading me, obviously, to the past. Like, where did these ideas come from? Like, where did you get this from? Why are you like this? And that's what the golden thread led me to. So I did the isolation, and then I realized, like, okay, maybe there's some things that are bothering me. And because I've been holding on to it, it's still affecting me in a negative way. Because again, these are things that bothered me. And so perhaps this shadowy aspect of me has been stimulated. But then I went ahead and instead of addressing what was happening, I just suppressed what was happening. And that's the most unhealthy thing that I believe somebody can do. Again, this is my opinion just based on experience. And so I started confronting my triggers. I started just being like, okay, what is this jealousy? What is this anger and all this? Because I did not always used to be the way that I am now. Oh no. oh no. I was not. It took lots of work to get to like the mindset that I'm at now, because boy, before I became a woman, before I became a woman, good Lord, I remember, let's just talk about the feedback I got from other people. And you know what? I guess I'm going to have to end up making a video like about the highly sensitive person, because I'm a highly sensitive person and everything like makes sense now. But again, I'm hanging on to this anger because as I'm following this golden thread, this is the feedback that I got from like my loved ones, supposedly, and my friends, and the people who are supposed to vibe and rock with me. They're just like, why are you so extreme? Why you take everything and blow it out of proportion? Or you take something really small and make it into a huge deal? Or why are you so intense? Things like that. And I'm up here like, bitch, I'm me. Like, what the fuck are you? Like, I don't know like why I am how I am. I just am. Like, why is it a problem? And for a long time, I just sincerely didn't understand why that was a problem for other people. And that is why I had created like this whole persona, this whole nice girl, isn't bothered, everything is okay, everything is cool. that's where that whole even thing came from, because I'm like, if I am myself, I'm gonna get negative feedback, and I don't like negative feedback, especially not from people who I love and who I consider my friends. But they were telling me like, why are you so extreme? Why are you so this? Why are you so that? And so obviously I created a persona that was more palpable and digestible for those around me. Again, suppressing my shadow. Like, that's a side of me that is. That's a side of me that is. My emotional side of me is part of me. But it took me a long time to realize that, like, you don't have to change. You don't have to pretend to be all these different kinds of ways just so that you can appease other people, because when you're doing all that work to appease other people, guess who's getting left on the back burner? This girl. I'm neglecting myself in an effort to try and appease these people when appeasing them is not my responsibility. I'm here to live my life and be me. So I started confronting my triggers and things like that, and I'm like, well, why are these different things that make me angry? So for example, attachment. I realized that the way that I attach to people, now this was when I did the healing work, but this is something that is a shadow aspect. I realized that, like, hey, like, I have like these attachment concerns and I have these attachment concerns, and where did they come from and why are they here? I realized that, like, hey, why do you have this attachment to people? And I realized it was because, like, a long time ago, elementary school, I had, like, it was hard for me to make friends. Like, I'm realizing now I've kind of been a very naive person. Like, I didn't realize that niggas could have, like, bad intentions for you. I just didn't realize that, because that's just not how I operate. But it's true, though. It's true. And so I would try to, like, make friends with people. And I guess, like, my sister being perceptive, and she was, like, older and stuff, she'd be like, these people, like, they're faking. Like, they don't want to be your friend, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't understand that. But, you know, I was different as a child. It was hard for me to make friends. I came to school late, and I was different. I had issues that other kids didn't have. So, I mean, I wanted to be friends with, I guess, who I perceived to be, like, the most popular, I guess. I don't know why, but that's something that developed in elementary school. Maybe it's because of them goddamn Disney movies, like Wish Upon a Star. Like, Katherine Heigl in that movie, I wanted to be just like her. And so, I actually watched that movie recently. I cannot believe that was on Disney Channel. Like, that one outfit that the little sister wore, oh my god, I would wear that today. But that shit was not appropriate for high school. Anyway, I'll put the picture up here so you know what I'm talking about. But I was going back, and I realized that, like, okay, there was this one girl who I considered my best friend. Like, we did a lot together, and, like, I just thought, like, she was just so cool, her and her sister. And I was like, yeah, those are, like, the cool girls, like, the pretty girls. And I was, like, best friends with her, but she was, like, a grade younger. So, like, I was in 5th grade and she was in 4th grade, for example. And so we hung out a lot, and, like, we would, like, do this singing group. And I remember we, like, for a talent show, we did, like, this JoJo song. Oh my god. But anyway, she was, like, my best friend. And what happened was, again, she was a year younger than me, and so 5th grade, I obviously promoted from 5th grade to 6th grade and was going to middle school, and so I was in middle school in 6th grade, and then she was in 5th grade. And so then when I moved to 7th grade and she came into 6th grade, she was just a completely different person. Like, that was not my best friend anymore, and it took me a while to swallow that pill. It took me a minute. But I was just like, oh, I guess technically, like, that's where, I don't know if you can really call it abandonment issues. It was just this wound around friendship. And, like, what is the value of friendship if 1 year apart can make you not be friends anymore? Like, right? That, me as a 12-year-old girl, that was just too much. That was just too much. And so I had obviously developed this wound around friendship. And so fast forward to, well, again, we're in middle school now, and I have this other best friend. She's crazy. She's a Gemini and she's wild, but she's really smart. And I love that. I just love smart people. And so she was really smart. Like, she had this really like nice figure, and it got noticed and stuff by like the boys and ESS. ESS was what, extended school services. It used to be AM PM. But anyway, I had another best friend, and when we were in middle school, we had transitioned obviously to high school. And when we were in middle school, there was this girl. I guess she called herself like my bully or something. I really don't know. But she just would always target me and always had some shit to say. I do not know why, but she always came for me. Probably because, again, I was weak. Like, I stood out. The other kids were not like me. They just were not. They did not have the same ailment, I guess you can say. The same physical ailments that I did. And so she would target me and shit like that. And my best friend, or my so-called best friend, was friends with her. And I was just like, man, what the fuck is this? Like, this is some fake shit. Like, how can we be friends with this person who treats me like this? Like, you can't be my friend and be her friend, because that's my enemy type shit, you know? And when we went into high school, she started hanging out with that other girl. And I'm gonna be for real, it was a bad crowd. It was a crowd I was not fucking with. She got wrapped up with a badass crowd fucking with that girl. And I just couldn't understand. Again, I have this wound around friendship. Like, why is it that my friends just do not want to stay with me? Like, why do they choose shit that is not even like productive for their life? Because the girl ended up getting pregnant in high school, you know. And shit, just if she was rolling with me, shit like that just wouldn't have happened. I'm allowed to say that shit. It's the truth. And so she, again, lost another best friend. And so then I became friends with my sister's best friend. And she's my best friend to this day. And later on, they ended up kind of growing apart. But me and her kind of stayed close, even though we've had our problems too. And I just remember in high school, specifically like senior year. Was it senior year? Was that when I took AP? Environmental science? I'm trying to think. Whatever the year was when I took AP environmental science, either that was junior year or senior year of high school, she got together with her current boyfriend and fiance, okay? So, I mean, when I tell you the hatred I felt for this boy in high school, ooh, like, who the fuck are you coming in between me and my friend? But anyway, what happened was, obviously, she started getting friendly with this boy. And I realized, even in the high school days, I'm like, okay, I know for a fact, like, these kids, they be having sex and stuff. I'm like, I know as a friend, I don't compare. You know, I just didn't feel valuable as her friend. And so I'm just like, dang, she chose this nigga over me type ish. And so I just developed like this wound around friendship as like time went on. And so I'm not sure if that's necessarily an abandonment issue, but my attachment issues did stem from like that fear of loss. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it took the shadow work for me to be able to see that it was the fear of loss because I actually experienced loss. And I started behaving in a way to try and keep people by my side because the feeling of losing a friend is just not good. I don't know how other people are. I value friendship. Friendship is very significant to me. It's even more important than a romantic relationship. I think I've said this in another video. Like, friendship to me is more important than a romantic relationship because it involves like your authentic self. It involves the things you have in common. It involves like what you see eye to eye on. And so I had just like this wound around that. And I developed an attachment style, again, fearful avoidant, because it's like I want to get close to people, but I don't allow myself to get close to people because I'm scared they're not going to be there anymore. And so it really took me, the isolation, it really kind of took me like going back because I'm a grown woman now. In a couple of years, I'm going to be 30. So I had to look back on the things that happened in the past because it was clearly impacting the present. And that's just what the shadow is to me. So I was following the golden thread, and that was just one example. Obviously there's other things that I worked through and continue to work through, because the healing never ends. But shadow work is healing work. That's my opinion. I think shadow work and healing work really go hand in hand, because there's a side of you that you neglected, not anybody else. There's a side of you that you neglected, and because you neglected it, everybody else neglected it. Do you see what I'm saying? So moving on. So then I realized like what these different issues were within me. I took the shadow work and like kind of following the golden thread and going back in time and seeing where all these triggers came from. And then instead of like having that isolation and that seclusion and like going back in time and figuring out why I am how I am now, I then started like, because life goes on. And so I'm interacting with people still like on a daily basis and things like that. And I started confronting my triggers in the moment. That was the shadow work for me. Like, what this trigger is here now. I don't want to think about this later. I don't want to wait till 3 years from now, 5 years from now to confront this shit. Nah, this shit's here right now. Let's go ahead and handle this shit right now. And so I started confronting my triggers in the moment. And I feel like that's the reason why I was able to kind of intellectualize my feelings and things like that, because I'm like, well, some of the stuff just isn't even, like, some of the stuff is ego based and we don't need that. Like, for real, it's not all that. We can always change. We can always create like a new ego. And so I started confronting my triggers in the moment, and I would have to just ask myself, like, why are you even feeling the way that you're feeling right now? Like, literally, what is it in you? And following that golden thread. And for me, I started confronting the triggers in the moment and as they came up, instead of letting that shit simmer inside me. Again, I don't suppress my shadow anymore. Never. As soon as she gets stimulated, she's out here. I'm bringing her forth. We're going to confront it right then and there. That's just how I am now as a grown woman. I did not always used to be that way. I used to suppress. I used to stuff down. I used to not even express emotions because, again, I used to be emotional and I was getting negative feedback. But again, now being a grown woman, I am emotional. It just is me. It just is me. I have done so much inner work. I have done so much, and I realize that's just a part of me. As a highly sensitive person, I just have strong emotions. It just is what it is. If people are not comfortable with that, they're always free to just not fuck with me. But I'm not gonna fucking try to simmer down for anybody. It just can't happen. At that point, I'm not being my authentic self. And so, again, I didn't even use this word before, but like when we're even just me mentioning my authentic self right now, to me, the shadow, or like the shadow work, is integrating your shadow side so that you can be holy and show up wholly as your authentic self. And that's my new goal. I show up on earth real. I show up on this earth real as fuck, and I sleep so well at night knowing that I'm a real ass bitch. I say that, I don't even say that humbly. I say that very proudly, because I know suppressing your shadow is a detriment. Just watch the movie Us. And then you try to tell me if suppressing your shadow has positive consequences. Okay? Just let me know, because that's what that whole movie was about suppressing the goddamn shadow. And now what I do is, when negative emotions arise in my brain, in the moment, I confront it. Why are you feeling this way? What's up? Because I'm in charge of my feelings. And that's what I learned from the Wei Wisdom page. Like, nobody is, tugging on, like, I'm not a puppet out here. Like, no one is like tugging on my different like strings or anything like that. Like, no, I'm in charge of my feelings. I'm in charge of my emotional responses. I'm just in charge, period. And I have to ask myself why I feel a certain way when I get stimulated in a certain way. Okay? And the last thing I did, the two things that I changed were challenging my belief system. So with following the golden thread and things like that, I realized that a lot of the thoughts and a lot of the beliefs that I had like within myself didn't even come necessarily from me. It just came from my conditioning. It just came from the people that I was raised by and the people that I was raised around. And not only that, just the circumstances that I was born into. Because again, the way I was born different. And because of that, I pretty much out the womb thought everybody was better than me. I thought everybody was. That's not something that was ingrained in me. That's not something that somebody taught me. It's just something that I noticed because I'm just like, why the fuck did I have to be born this way and not anybody else? Like, everybody else is normal. So why the fuck did it happen to me? So I had this victim complex, which is another thing that I feel like I had to work through a long time ago. I had to work through like the victim complex when I was still in middle school. Like, there was a lot of shit that I had to overcome at a young age because I was different. And, well, basically, like, kind of just like overcoming just that idea of everyone's better than me. I realized even as a grown woman, these feelings were already in me because of what I was thinking by myself, just like walking through my life. And so I had to realize that no, everybody's just a person. And this is, again, the shadow work. That's why I like to intellectualize my feelings. Maybe it's the Aquarius moon. I really don't know. But I have to intellectualize my feelings because, again, I need to know why I feel a certain way or why it's even necessary to feel a certain way. And so I was just like, no, like, you feel this way because you came out the womb. Like, you came out the womb different, and you looked at other kids. You looked at other kids and you always questioned why. You questioned why they were normal and you just weren't. Like, you just weren't normal. I was in the operation room. I was having surgeries, you know, I was having to recover and be strong and be a soldier at 5 years old. Do you know what I'm talking about? So it was just very different. And so obviously I developed like this victim mentality. But again, I became a grown woman. It's just like, you know, you don't have to go through that anymore. So it took the shadow work, and it took me confronting my feelings and my belief system to really realize why I'm feeling this way. And then the main thing was like, okay, you found the answer to this question. Now what the fuck are you going to do about it? And that's just, I don't know. I get really real with myself. I don't know how everyone else is, but like, I think I said in my last video, I'm about tough love and I'm about real love. That totally comes into play even with self-love. Like, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm just like, girl, what's up? Like, you gotta let me know. Let me know what's going down. Like, what the fuck is up right now? And I kind of talk to myself like I need like a coach or something. I talk to myself like somebody who needs guidance because I am guiding myself. It's like there's my higher self that's out there, and I have to like guide my lower self so that we can meet like in the middle. So I'm wrapping up this video now. I've been talking for a while, but as far as the shadow work goes, the last thing I did was like being decisive. So I told you that I had challenged like my own belief system and things like that. And then I said, I got to the point where I was just like, okay, so what are you going to do now? And I started getting really decisive about what the fuck I'm going to do now. I'm like, so basically I decided I'm not going to believe that other people are better than me just because they were born normal. Like, I'm gonna stop that. I'm gonna stop thinking that woe is me, because literally everybody that's alive on planet Earth has problems. Everybody that's alive on planet Earth has issues, has problems to work through, healing to do, things like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop the woe is me shit, because a lot of people are woe is me. So that's not gonna be me. So I am rapping, like I said, but I started getting decisive. I started deciding to, like, when I would get triggered, like, in the moment, I'd be like, okay, so is this something worth being jealous about? Because let's decide. Like, in my brain, like, obviously you guys can't see my thoughts, like, if we're in a conversation or anything like that, but please believe that, like, there's a little cartoon me. If you ever used to watch Lizzie McGuire, there is like a little cartoon me, like, in my head that is super dramatic, that is just like processing all this shit. So even like when triggers arise in a conversation or in situations maybe at work or anything like that, customers, things like that, I ask myself like, okay, part of being my higher self, I wouldn't be able to be my higher self if I didn't integrate my shadow. I wouldn't be able to, because the doormat, I'm so nice, I'm so accepting, and nothing phases me persona, that shit is really weak, and it's not for me. It's not for me. It's just not for me. If that's you, okay, go off. Okay. So yes, that is my video. I just wanted to go ahead and come on here and kind of just talk about like how I simplify the shadow work. And it's really just tapping into like those sides of me that, ooh, are so shameful, or no. It's not shameful. I stopped. That's another thing I was decisive about. I don't believe in shame. There is no fucking shame. My shadow needs to thrive. She has to be seen, or else we're going to have a fucking us situation. And we don't want that. I just wanted to make this video really quickly, just kind of talking about like what shadow work is from my perspective and from my experience, and how I believe that integrating the shadow is your best bet to thrive on planet Earth, not just survive. Surviving is like, to me in my brain, surviving is like the equivalent of struggling. And I just don't believe in struggle. I like luxury. I like being relaxed. I like knowing that shit is taken care of. And so I like the word thrive way more than survive. And I feel like integrating my shadow was necessary. It was necessary for me to thrive on planet Earth because so many people operate from their shadow without knowing, because they do so much to try to consciously suppress it. And it ends up coming out anyway. It ends up coming out in other ways anyway. So there's just no way. There's just no way to do it. So, ooh, that's the thunder. I knew it was gonna rain. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. I'm gonna end it here now. And thank you if you watched until the end, as always. And I hope that you took something away from this video. If you're just kind of happen to stumble across it by accident, or you feel like you resonated with any of the ish that I was saying in this video, then that's great. That was the intention. But I mean, it really does kind of come down to self-awareness. I think that the shadow work has everything to do with self-awareness, knowing who you are and knowing who you want to be. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.